Welcome to Mercy's Designs. My name is Mercy and I demonstrate Stampin' Up products. Today I'm going to show you this Dove of Hope beautiful stamped card, and this is part of my holiday countdown sale, and I will be showing you a little bit more advanced techniques to make this card. But if you want to just get only the stamps that you could stamp it and fussy cut out this part. Now this is brought in from a different stamp set. So it's actually Beautiful World, the dies, the world map dies, but you could easily substitute it with the ornament. So I will show you how you can do that as well. All right, so we are going to be doing a really fun technique with the embossing, and if you haven't embossed or seen it, it's just really cool. But my machine, the heat tool is kind of noisy, so I will be probably bringing in, speeding up parts of it. Okay, I'm really stumbling over my words today. Wow. All right, so let's get started. You will need to have an embossing buddy to destatic your paper. So I have this scrap. I have a couple scraps here. We're going to do the dove on here. And then finally, yeah, that's all. Just those two pieces. Okay. So here is the little beautiful ornament. And normally I would suggest go ahead and do a couple so you are ready to go. So when you do the Versamark, you will have difficulty seeing it at this point until we add the embossing powder. The powder will make it darker, and you'll see that in a second. So I like to try to maximize my paper. So hopefully I'll be able to get 2 of these doves onto one image. Now this, unfortunately, this stamp set will not be carrying over, but you can still purchase it probably starting on December 8th and as supplies last. So it might sell out the first day, it might not sell out until the January 4th. I have no idea. But it is going to be discontinued. And it's just a beautiful set. So really great for the holidays. And has an encouraging message. So here I've added gold embossing powder. And next I'm going to bring in my heat tool. So I will speed this part up to avoid hurting your ears. Look how beautiful it is. It just gets all shiny. Next I'm going to bring in my Big Shot, and this is a big tool. However, they're just coming out with a mini version, which mine hasn't come yet, but I did order it. Which is at a lower price point and smaller, which has some pros and cons. The pro being it's a lot smaller in spaces like this. So this is, again, part of the world maps dies. And what you do, I like to kind of cut my paper to the size. So I'll just do a rough cut here. And again, I hope to use it. And you just, I'm going to back this up just a bit. You just line it up over the die. It's over the image. It's very simple. It's just bulky and a little bit shaky when you do this on camera. So I generally do not do die cutting on camera. Most people have seen it, but if you are curious, this is an opportunity, and you're not as familiar with stamping perhaps. So what you do, now I have it all ready, and I just need to, here it is, bring in my cover. This is a cutting plate, and crank it through. So don't be concerned if it makes some weird sounds. That's perfectly normal. My light just about fell over though. That was not part of the show. Okay, so my space is kind of limited here. I apologize. I'll just bring this around. I was using a magnetic plate to help keep it more still, I mean. So you can see it cuts it out perfectly. Just really beautiful. And then this one shifted, and that sometimes will happen, but it's a lot easier than fussy cutting. And then here is the image of the earth. So, and then what you layer behind it. So you just need to pop these parts out, and then you have a nice little part. So I will do that next. Put those together and we can start building our card. So the paper that I used for this particular card, I'm just going to set this aside, is the Snowflake Spendor paper. It's a designer series paper, and that is on sale. I think it's like 30% off. Don't quote me on that. But it will really dress up your cards using designer series paper. I especially love it with Christmas cards. I like it with all types of cards, but Christmas is just really beautiful. So one of the techniques that I like to do is to add a little color at the edges of my paper. And it just kind of, it's subtle, but, and I also like doing this with sentiments too often. So here it looks like that when you do that. So it just adds a little something something, as they say. Next, I will bring in a scrap of paper and we will stamp and punch the sentiment. So here's the scrap of paper, and then I will have to grab my stamp pad. I forgot it. Okay, so I'm ready to stamp the sentiment. So I'm just going to bring in my stamp here, and I always like to stamping, especially when you're using red rubber first and then punching, because you can always get it, it's easier to get it straight. So in order to fill in that white space, they have this beautiful little snowflake stamp that's part of the set. And what we're going to do is I'm going to just bring this over here and bring in a paper just to protect my work surface. So I stamped this in Pacific Point, and what I have here now is the Balmy Blue. And I'm going to intentionally stamp off of the paper in some places just to kind of make it not as matchy-matchy. And then I'm going to stamp again and even fill over it with second generation, just to kind of fill in. And that kind of adds more of a fuller look. And it also then will somewhat mimic this designer series paper. So that is really cool. Always. The more you can repeat colors and so on, it ties in a card, I find. So now I'm going to bring in our base, which is Pacific Point. Sorry, one of these little pieces came off, and I'm going to go ahead and attach that. So I'm going to set that aside. So be sure to check out the sale that Stampin' Up! Is having. It starts on December 8th, as I was saying, and it will run till January 4th, but it's as supplies last. They have some fabulous deals. You do not want to miss that. And the best time to buy is when it's on sale, right? Okay, so this is now our base, and the next part is just going to be continuing to assemble. So here is our world, and I do have adhesive backing on the back, but sometimes it tends to lift a little, so where it's like these solid areas, I do like to add a few drops of glue. Don't go overboard though, because foil is not the best with glue. So I did that, and then I just, oh, see, that didn't go super well. I would have been better off going directly on using my work surface. That's what I did wrong. Okay, so isn't that cute? It's just really pretty, and it goes with the sentiment with his peace on earth. So what we will need to do next is to add a little twine and bring in our dove. So one of the things you need to do with the dove, in order to get it to slip in, you need to cut here, which I already did. You need to cut a little bit under the beak so that the linen thread, which I'll bring in now, will hold. So what I do, hold better, and it'll look more like it's carrying it, which is really super adorable. So you can see right there, but I will add a little piece of tape because we don't want it coming loose. Ooh, that tape is gonna go over and show. So just gonna trim real quick. And this was a little big too. Okay. So we just want to keep it still, and that looks good. So, you know, the birdie, the beautiful dove. And the other thing I would suggest doing is adding dimensionals. So I'm just going to flip it over and grab my handy dandy dimensionals. This adds a lot to a card. These are the large ones, but sometimes I will cut them down to make them smaller for little areas. I'll just show you real quick what I mean by that. So I'll just cut down. This is on the edges, actually, is what I'm using right now. And if I need a small strip, I can also do something like that. So every piece is used. I need a small strip on this wing. That came out pretty well. Sometimes things don't come out as well as you hope, right? But that one came out really well. Okay, so again, every piece is used. And I think one more little piece will work. Okay, so now it's ready to roll, if you will. But of course we need to have this attached. And the best, again, I would use a little tape on the back, or you can use a glue dot, whichever you prefer. Actually, a glue dot wouldn't have been bad an idea, but we'll just roll with this. Okay, so I want to position this so it looks right. So I'm just adding this here and doing kind of a rough layout. It's nice if it can kind of tie together. If you have things all separated, it looks kind of weird. It's better if things are more or less joined. Sometimes spacing is fine, but too much spacing is not good. All right, so obviously we want this to be, so I'm just going to go ahead and attach this and hope it's good. And if it's not, then I can slightly adjust it. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to once again use my liquid glue, the Tombow liquid glue. It works great for this. And I'm just gonna, it's not a problem to glue right over that Scotch tape. And then I'm just going to set it here. And you want it fairly tight, but not like tons of pressure on the dove. And then I'm going to just slip this on behind and have that kind of coming by the wing and then straight, keep it straight. Okay, so that's the front of the card, which I think is beautiful, but we're not finished. We're gonna do some really quick stamping inside the card. So here is a Whisper White panel, and this is 4 inches by 5 1/4, a standard measurement. So what I want to do now is I'm going to bring in our dove, the little dove that was part of the stamp set, and I'm not sure if I showed the stamp set, so I'll just show that real quick. It has all these beautiful images, and I did say that I would talk about how this ornament, which I screwed up, would work. As you can see, it can kind of look like it's carrying it. I don't know if you can see that, but you can have the ornament. The dove is carrying the ornament. That's what was shown in the catalog. But I do like the world because the earth, peace on earth, which is not original, by the way, of me. I saw that someone else did that. I get a lot of inspiration from Pinterest, although I tend to do a lot of ideas on my own too, and variations of other people's ideas. So Pinterest is really great that way. So there is the other dove image, and it could be colored the little, I probably will color the leaves and the holly berry. But the last thing I want to do now is to add our sentiment, which is "in hope in your heart." So I have that right here. So it's peace on earth and hope in your heart, and we sure need that this year. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this tutorial. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. I tried to put out different tutorials like this. It's been less often than I hoped, but things are busy. Right now I'm remote. My son is doing the remote learning, and he's just 8 years old, so it takes most of my morning. All right, so here we go. Here's our beautiful inside of our card. I love adding a panel inside and just doing a little bit more stamping. So the party continues. Thank you again for watching. If you have any questions or want to place an order, please email me at mewants3@gmail.com. If you would like to order, please use my host code. And I will now bring in a couple other cards that I used with this stamp set. So this one is the same, but I did not do the embossing for the dove. And I also brought in another stamp set here. So that's a little variation. I also sponged the background, which I think turned out really well. And then this one is also using more of just the dies that are included in this stamp set. So they have this beautiful big dove. It's really a fabulous set. I really encourage you to consider getting it while it's still available. And again, I thank you for watching and happy stamping.